Hey guys, today we're going to take a look at the new National Cycling League for 2023. I guess it's been in development. I had never heard of it until just very recently. I don't think anybody had. So I first heard about it on Kaylee Frett's podcast, The Replacements. He had a short segment on it, just came out and talked about it for a minute. And so I've been doing a little more research. Recently, Jonathan Crane, who does some great YouTube videos, did a long podcast video on it. So I want to kind of just break it down, keep it short, simple, and give you the details about it. So first off, what is the National Cycling League? Well, it's a new 4-race league that is being developed for American crit racing, domestic USA crit racing, that wants to sort of model itself after, traditional American sports franchises. So let's look at that. First off, one of their big key things, which maybe isn't so traditional, is they want to really push diversity in both races, and I mean actually like human races, and gender, especially on the gender side by having male and female teams that are sort of equalized. Okay, so the league is going to be city-based, and right now they own 2 city-based teams, the Denver Disruptors and the Miami Knights, which they have full rosters for those teams, which is very different because cycling, it's kind of city-based. Usually teams sort of have a home location, but it doesn't really have anything to do with that location. Instead, it's all about the sponsorship and then kind of where they go and race. Okay, so each team will have 8 men and 8 women per team. And I guess that's a maximum. I guess you're only allowed to have 8 men and 8 women per team. And the male and female teams will be the same. Like there's a male squad and a female squad. There will be 6 racers per team for each event. So of their 4 events, there'll be 6 racers from each team. So there'll be like 2 alternates. And I can see this working as, you'd have to have alternates. And I think that there's going to be times, just thinking about this, maybe where you couldn't get even 6 racers for your team when you have people that are like, hurt, sick, or maybe just can't travel to a certain event. Okay. The league is going to organize 4 of their own races, and they're calling this the CRT, the Crit Racing Tour. So if you see CRT, I think that's where that stands for. The NCL is the league, and then their tour is the Crit Racing Tour. And right now it's Denver, Miami, Washington, and Atlanta. So the 2 home teams will have a home race, and then 2 outside that. These races are going to be lap scored, they say, but we don't know what that means. We don't have any details for that yet. Does lap scoring mean that like each team, will every lap be scored, every 5 laps be scored, will there just be certain laps? We don't know. But lap-based scoring, which is team-based, so you're not riding as an individual, you're only riding for your team, and the team gets the points, not the individual riders. So, of course, like I said, each team's going to have a men and women's squad. They race in separate races. Their points are added together for an overall team win. 8 other teams will be invited. So, in the 4 races that this league is going to own and run, there'll be 8 other teams. That means 60 total racers on the course, which that's probably around the normal amount for like a regular sort of crit. But a lot of these big, like USA P12 crit cup races maybe have double that. Tulsa, I think, maybe has 120 or so people, and that's probably way too many, and probably one of the reasons why there's a lot of accidents and stuff. But 60 total riders, 8 other teams. We don't really know anything about what the other teams are going to be yet. There is a $1 million prize purse for their series, and they've partnered with Medalist Sports to put on these races. And Medalist Sports is, they've been around a while, and they have done some big cycling events in the United States. The most recent one is there was a Maryland UCI, actually, I think it was like maybe the only UCI race in the United States, and that was, I think, the Maryland Cycling Classic or something, and I think that was last year. Okay, another big thing is technology. They're really pushing, they say they have a proprietary technology platform, which I have no idea what that means, but more than likely it's like going to be an app right? So they're going to have rider biometrics on this app or this platform. They're going to maybe have live streaming. I mean, I'm assuming that they would have live streaming. And they claim to have a metaverse component, which I'm assuming would be Zwift-like. You could ride along with the race, I guess. Like you could get on your trainer somehow and pedal and be in the race, which very few of us could actually do that in real life, I think. So jerseys will have names and numbers on the back. So that's kind of the basic facts right now. They do have some pretty impressive personnel signed up. Like they have Clever Martinez, they have Frank Travesio, who two pretty big USA riders. They have Sven Tuft, who I was a fan of back in the day, UCI pro rider from back in the day, who signed on to be the coach of the Denver Disruptors. The coach, whatever that means. Okay, so my thoughts. Need some thoughts on this. First off, these organizers, they don't really seem to have a lot of experience in cycling. Paris Wallace, I think, is the guy who's in charge of this. He is a business guy, and so he's not really has he apparently has a passion for cycling. He retired from a big business that he started, made lots of money, and he took up cycling. He's going into this to kind of like, but he doesn't have like a cycling background as far as I can tell, and I don't think any of the other people involved really do either. This is coming completely out of left field. I mean, there was no like leaks or information about this leading up. This hasn't been in development. There's no, it was just like all of a sudden, I think December 22nd, they were like, hey, we have $7.5 million and we're going to have a racing league in 2023. Here we are. And it's like, what? They've come from nowhere. It has a very AstroTurf feel to me and not grassroots. And what I mean by that is that like, for example, when the American Crit Cup, which is another American race series, kind of the big one for American crit racing, it sort of naturally evolved when the American Crit, whatever, USA Crits, the league that was, the organization that was there before, it kind of collapsed, right? So then this is sort of what grew out of the ashes. This thing has nothing, there's no real background to this. There's no history that they're kind of pulling out of. It's just like, hey, we're going to make this thing from nowhere, which to me is troublesome because I feel like things need to be based on something. But maybe that's a strength. Maybe that's going to be a great strength from this, because maybe that means this won't have baggage associated where people think, well, this is only a New England league that's, or it's only these like races that have been, I don't know. Maybe that's a good thing. Okay, big one. This is the Williams brothers' idea. And the Williams brothers, if you're not, it's Justin and Corey Williams of Legion. The number one domestic cycling team in the United States as far as crit racing is concerned. And this has been their idea. They've been talking about this for several years now. They want a league. They want NBA for cycling in the United States. They want city-based teams. They want rider jerseys. And this is and no sponsors on the jerseys. They don't want the European style of this. They want an American style of cycling racing in the United States. But the weird thing is they don't seem to be involved. I mean, they're saying that they're not involved in this, that this isn't them. If you were paying attention a couple years ago, they had Into the Lion's Den, which was their sort of like test run for their idea, where it was a race they promoted. They put up a bunch of money. And it was very, very, very controversial because they actually owned 3 of the teams. They had like Legion Squad A, Legion Squad B, and they had the Miami Blazers, which is a team that they started to just kind of like develop their idea of having like city-based teams, right? So they got an LA team, they got a Miami team. They pay for that. They pay the salaries for those Miami riders. So it's really hard to have a lot of faith in a race where 3 of the, I don't know, however 10 or whatever teams were in that race were owned by the same people who are also promoting the race. So they apparently, from what I've kind of read, and this could be wrong, but apparently it seems like they want to also own the league they're racing in, or which to me just seems like a crazy idea. So I don't know why they wouldn't want to get involved in this. It's their idea. It's their and I think they had some details on the Justin Crane podcast on this, but I think one of the people who helped develop this idea for the NCL worked for Legion for a while, and he basically left and went to and started this idea with some investors. Most of the investors are from traditional NBA football, mostly are African American black guys that have a lot of money that are looking maybe to invest it into sport, into an up and coming sport, and kind of expand diversity and everything, which is awesome. But I don't, right now the Williams brothers say they're not being involved, and to me it's like, this is what you want, but you're not going to be involved because you're not in charge of it. That sounds pretty pathetic to me, honestly. I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't be the best team in the race and also own the race. That's just not, nobody's going to believe in that, Okay, some other thoughts here. Will the other teams, will they be racing for points, series points, or race wins? I mean, I don't feel like they can come up with 8 other teams that will be consistent across their 4 races. Maybe they can, 8 other teams. And remember, the teams have to have a male and female component. And they're going to invite pre-existing teams. And I don't think too many American teams have a male and female squad. They're especially a male and female squad that have the same, organization and sponsors and stuff like that. So I think that maybe what could happen is something like, say, Butcher Block has, I don't think they have a female team, or like, say, Cliff Cycling brings in 8 female riders for a particular race and 8 male riders. And so a lot of times too, these races, I don't feel like having 8 riders at a race or 6 riders at a race is doable across the country for that many teams, because you got to remember, America's huge, domestic cycling is tiny, and a lot of racers, Legion can travel all over the country. They have a big budget, and some racers can, but that would be tough. So I'm assuming, I'm going to make the assumption that the races will have points for the series, and that's really only going to matter for the 2 teams, the Denver team and the Miami team. And everybody else is just going to race for the win, of the race, which could have a prize or something, So I'm guessing that the race win will be important. I mean, you can't really have a race without the last lap being somehow extra important, than, say, the previous 40 or 50 laps or whatever. Okay. Page 2. This is a long one. Almost done. Okay. So like I said, will we even have a race winner and a podium? I'm thinking we have to, because I just don't see how this could really work without having some kind of, for the other teams, some kind of like, and maybe that podium will be team based, and I think that could work out, where it's like, okay, the whole team gets to step up, and we don't have individuals, but I still feel like for this to work out, it's only going to be pro. So U.S. Racing has always had, and this is something I love about, this, but U.S. Racing, pretty much every race has a pro and amateur component. You can sign up you might start at 8:30 in the morning, but the Cat 5s can do the same course in the same race that the pros are going to do that night. How will a points-based crit play out? Well, we don't really know that until the scoring. I mean, to me, the idea about having points in the middle of a race could really, because a lot of times a race is pretty dull until you start to get to the end, right? But it has moments. Breakaways can happen, accidents can happen, stuff can happen. But throwing in some, and we have preems. We've had this tradition of preems throughout the course, throughout the race, where certain laps have special prizes. So maybe every so many laps, maybe it's announced. I don't know how that's going to work, but there would have to be a scoreboard, and I feel like it's going to be hard for racers to keep all that, you know, like what lap are we on? Is this a preem? Is this a what is this, you know? And then finally I'm thinking, like, what about the American Crit Cup? I mean, that thing's kind of just getting off the ground, and why I you know, I'm just like, we're going to have 2 racing series. Of course, it's a lot bigger and more established racing series. And, you know, again, last year, the best team, Legion, did not participate. They did the races. They did a lot of the American Crit Cup races, but they weren't in the series. They didn't buy into the series. So even though, you know, they were killing it in a lot of the races, they weren't up for the overall, which just seems stupid. It's like, yeah, here's, you know, and no offense to, like, Brandon Fury, who won the American Crit Cup, but, like, you know, you would think that the best rider in those races would win. And maybe Legion didn't do enough of them. I don't know how the scoring would have worked out. I just know they didn't count. They didn't get scored in the overall. So overall, I mean, while I'm kind of critical of it, I think it's awesome. I mean, you know, I wish it was somewhat more. I wish there was more information right now. I mean, it's 2023, and the first race is probably going to be sometime in 6 months or something, and within the next 6 months, and they don't have any information, you know, like, out about how these races are going to go. We know the cities. We know the cities the races are going to be in. I can't remember. I think the first race is Denver, but I don't really remember. It might be on that website, pop up back and forth. But the overall thing right now, it just feels very slick, very corporate, very AstroTurf. It doesn't have a genuine feel to it. And it needs to, if it's going to be successful, I think, in cycling, it's going to have to somehow get that genuine feel to be successful, and not feel like this is some kind of, I don't know, scam/pyramid scheme, you know, where it just popped out of nowhere. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'd love to see it be successful. I hope it grows. I would love to have a really interesting domestic crit cycling scene to follow, that, you know, got some news coverage and grew. So maybe this is it. Let's hope for the best. I'm looking forward to the first race. I don't want to do the races on Zwift. I want to watch them on a live stream, a good live stream with maybe some cool drone footage. So guys, if you're watching, NCL guys, I don't want to pedal along with professional racers on Zwift and try to enjoy a race. I don't think anybody really does, unless, you know, I don't know. So I think that's just a dumb idea. But everything else, seeing live power, seeing. Here's a big one for you guys if you're watching. On on the bike cameras in the race. On the bike cameras, several racers, team captains, I don't know, somebody has on the bike cameras, and we can watch that live. That would be a huge hit. If you can get that figured out, you guys are golden. All right, later.